So, hello and welcome to the 1% podcast. Today we have the legend that is Mr. Pete or Peter Swinburn on the podcast. So, Pete and I have been working together for the last 6 months or so now, and Pete's got a really exciting and interesting story, just like a lot of the other gents that I speak with. Very busy, very senior within his business, lots going on in life, family, the whole lot. Really taking ownership of where he was and thriving. And I think his story is going to be powerful for anyone listening, because often you might look at someone like Pete on LinkedIn or Instagram and go, yeah, they've got it all sorted, and they have. But equally, actually, all of us need to do a bit of work and take a look at ourselves and take ownership and action when we feel like things aren't working. And Pete's very much been on that journey. And as he sits today, absolutely smashing it. And so I want you to hear from the horse's mouth, though, not me. So before we kick off, Pete, do you want to just introduce yourself, who you are, what you do?
Hi, Luke. I am Peter Swinburn. I'm a solicitor and the chief executive of a mid-regional law firm called Clark Wilmot. Married with two children, and we recently moved to Somerset.
Busy man, then.
Yeah, very busy man. Yeah, so just a bit of I suppose, a bit of history about me. I'm a commercial property solicitor by trade, and I've been with my wife now for 20 years, and we lived in Hampshire until fairly recently, until I suppose a series of sort of meteoric events happened that necessitated a change in our life. My daughter was diagnosed with the type 1 diabetes, which came as a bit of a shock when she was 11, and caused us to sort of rethink through some parts of our life, and obviously life-changing disease, really, that was it came as a real shock for Rach and I. A few days later, Rachel's father had a big operation, and there were major complications, and he ended up having a major amputation, which caused quite a lot of concern in the family. At this stage, we were living in Hampshire and some way away from them. At the same time, work was going brilliantly. As I say, I'm a commercial property solicitor, and had built a strong commercial property practice on the South Coast with a large team that I was very proud of and remain very proud of. And during that process, having risen through the partnership, I was elected the CEO of Clark Wilmot. We have we're a regional law firm, about 65 million, 700 staff, but we have a very big southwest and western boundary front. It is partly necessary for me to spend more time in the southwest, and with both my wife's and my parents being in the southwest, it sort of opened up the opportunity to a move. So I took the CEO role at the same time as all these sort of health challenges were going on in the family, and we took the plunge and moved down to Somerset about 18 months ago. And it's been a fantastic move. But the day that we completed on the house down here, my wife was diagnosed with a stage 3 breast cancer, and we've been going through the whole breast cancer journey. It has been a pretty meteoric few years,
Just a
and
bit.
yeah, and we're very much here to tell the tale. Very positive. The family are fantastic. Got two children, 15 and 12, who have been absolutely brilliant throughout the whole process. Have sort of dealt with the disruption of lifting them up from their friend base and moving to the southwest, leaving friends and family and schooling and all their mates and all the activities they're involved with, and have just picked up brand new school, got stuck straight into it, and have done an amazing job. And yeah, Rachel's powered through. I mean, she was really quite ill at one stage, has gone through chemo and mastectomy, and is in really great shape. And we've come out the other side. But I suppose that the thing for me, Luke, just sort of, I suppose, prefacing part of this call, is that I'd sort of got into a sort of cycle of work, really. I suppose that sometimes you sort of get into a thought process as to how you're going to deal with some of these things, and you put a stoic face on, a word that we use a lot in the 1% and the collective, but you put a very stoic face on it and you brave it out. And certainly in my role as CEO, you have to be very ambassadorial and front facing, and you can't take your personal life into work. And so I just got my head down and got stuck into work whilst being there for every appointment for H and going through all of the family trials and tribulations. Just embedded myself in work. And I suppose, you come home late at night, you have a big meal, probably open a bottle of wine and have a few drinks, and it's sort of rinse, repeat. And got into a bit of a cycle, I suppose, where I wasn't doing enough exercise, was in a sort of habit of just a couple of glasses of wine in the evening and then hit the weekends and maybe a little bit more, and got into a spiral, I suppose. Not a sort of, terrible spiral, but just a sort of habitual spiral that I wasn't comfortable with. And very, very dear mate of mine had been through the 1% blueprint with you, and wow, it was transformational for him. And I think he was subtly trying to tell me that it would be a useful opportunity for me to embark on a similar exercise. And yeah, I'm eternally grateful to him for that, and to you, because it's been an absolute game changer.
Well, firstly, thank you for being so open and transparent with what was going on and where you're at, Pete, because you've had a very turbulent few years, and some of the, I guess, maladaptive behaviors and coping mechanisms you kept talking about, I think, I'd say fair enough, because you've had a load of stuff going on.
Yeah,
The whole concept of, well, I've got to put a brave face on for everyone else and overexert and do that with work, with your family, whatever else, but inside maybe not taking care of yourself as best
yeah,
you can
definitely.
because of these outside effect issues. And it's not about blaming you for those things. You didn't choose a single one of those, and you cope with it as best you can. And performing at work, yep, performing at home, but actually your own self-care, health, mental well-being is kind of left at the bottom. And I think, different set of circumstances for the gents, but often I think like, people can relate to that kind of story where
Yeah,
you become bottom of the pile, and that's okay for a point, but there's a point at which actually that then gives diminishing returns because you're not taking care of yourself.
myself.
Other things start to get a diluted version of you as a byproduct. Does that
Yeah,
resonate?
I mean, I think work. The firm is a wonderful place to be. They're very supportive, and obviously, as soon as Rachel's news broke, I've just had the biggest hug and support around me. But you do operate in a sort of fog. I am positive, very passionate, and sort of feel that I could get through this. Not light touch because it was such a major thing, but can get through this. And I need to be stoic and strong for Rach and for everything that's going on with the family and for the kids as they settle into the new school. Work was going really, really well. I struggle with confidence. I've always struggled with confidence for most of my life, and found myself in a situation thrust into that front-facing, very ambassadorial role where you have to show up for your teams and the offices on the road a lot, out of hotels, and spending a lot of time in the offices, seeing all of my colleagues because it's a huge part of my job. But that presentational style then came as a bit of a challenge initially. The confidence, that sort of imposter syndrome was dreadful. And so it was all interlinked, that sort of imposter syndrome, that sort of fear factor, the lack of confidence. I just sort of went into a bit of a fog and just got through it. And it was positive enough because work has just been going so well and it's been great. But because work was going so great, I think it gave me an excuse not to address some of the other things that were going on in my life. And that is really the catalyst for where we ended up today.
Yeah, and recognizing that work was going well, you were looking after your family, but sometimes it's almost like doing it with pushing a boulder up a hill. And actually, I want to do this where it's easier. And by that, what I mean by that is because you're not taking care of yourself as best you could, you make the whole process harder for yourself. The analogy I gave, and I think I gave it to you, it's a bit like going down the motorway in second gear. It's like you're getting the job done, but it's not aligned or in sync, right? And so if we address those fundamentals physically, mentally, emotionally, then you are only able to better approach work, family, rate, support everyone else, right?
That's
And I think
exactly right.
an absolute credit to you, got through and done it. But I guess you're at a point, I think, where, and stop me if I'm speaking out of turn here, where you're like, well, actually, this is okay, but I know I want to be operating better within this,
Yeah.
and also I want to be healthier, and so I can't keep doing what I'm doing, and I need to make some changes in order to address that. And
Yeah.
I think fair play for putting your hand up and asking for that help, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly right. I think I was engaging in a series of town halls in the offices, and they were going well. My confidence was improving. My presentational style to them, I think, is improving. Although maybe I need to speak to my colleagues about that. But it was improving, but I was dealing with day-to-day queries, and that sort of fog was perhaps sort of masking some of the way that I was able to address some of those thoughts. I think it's probably that sort of continuous sort of cycle where you think, how am I just going to break this up a bit? How can I be a bit freer of mind, a bit more sort of get my mojo back a bit? And having spent so much time looking, as I say, looking after the family and 700 colleagues, I think I felt like actually you need to address some things here, Pete. Your weight is going on; it's not coming down. Notwithstanding the fact we eat pretty well, I don't think as I say, the sort of habitual use of a glass or two of wine in the evening and that sort of thing had gone well. And I think probably sport was something that I had usually been incredibly active all my life, and I probably was doing less than I'd like to. And when I do it, I'm just all in and beast it. And then
And it falls over at some point.
exactly twang something or something pulls, and then you don't do anything for another week or two, and it was a bit sort of hit and miss. And obviously sort of everyday family life. You've got a lot of, we have, since we moved down here, suddenly the children are busy at weekends in various sporting activities with school and things and shows. And so the weekends were probably not ours anymore, which is, I think standard family life. But so, yeah, just got into this, as I say, got into this cycle. But I was in this town hall one day and just thought, I'm in the town hall at work, and just thought, I just need to free my mind up a bit. I'm making the same decisions based on the same concepts, and actually there's more to this. I can be better than that.
Yeah, and I think that's the realization that I want to and can be better than I am doing. And sometimes, being honest, you don't quite know what it is you need to do. You've
Yeah,
got a vague idea that, okay, practically probably need to look at what's going in my mouth, maybe reduce the drinking a bit, do some exercise. But
yeah,
to be frank, how the fuck does that fit in with 700 colleagues, a wife that I'm supporting, family, all the rest of it? So it's this conscious knowledge of, yes, I want and need to do something to address it, but I can't quite see the wood for the trees or work out what or
yeah,
why.
yeah.
Like you said, maybe acutely focus in one area and try it, but then it doesn't work or it falls over because you're so busy. So that was where we were. Let's now fast forward to where we sit today, Pete. And I think, like we were discussing offline, by all accounts, thriving in a great spot. We're continuing to do some work, which is really exciting as well. As you sit today, what have been your key achievements? And I guess what has been your key learnings having come through this journey of, I know journey is a bit wanky, but journey of self-development, personal development, and how we sit today? Because I know by all accounts you were thriving at work, but we've discussed even more so now.
Yeah.
Family was good, but even better,
I,
physically healthier.
I,
So what are the constituent parts that are feeding into that, and what have you learned thus far?
I'll never forget the very first. So, as I say, a very, very, very dear friend of mine put me forward in terms of the course, and see the monumental changes it had made to his life. To be fair, I think it's fair to say, he probably encountered similar challenges to me, similar
Very much
family,
so.
very similar age, probably slightly impulsive in terms of food and drink as well. Same sort of challenges. And I think a lot of gents of my generation feel probably very, very similar. But I remember you saying, it's great you're showing up for the town hall, and you're obviously doing, it's going well. And I genuinely, I'm really proud of what I've achieved. It's been a long journey to get to this stage, and I'm incredibly proud of that. But you said something about the fact of, well, imagine how much more confident you'll be, and if you show up, if you're looking better and you feel better in yourself and you're freer of mind, if you that confidence, that sort of, I'm not sort of arrogant enough to have the sort of cocky swagger, but an element of a swagger that, you feel confident enough in what you're delivering. So that was our first meeting, wasn't it? Where we came on, as I came as a sort of fact find from my friend to sort of see how the land lies. Embarked on the 1%. Went in a bit by my sort of impulsive attitude elsewhere. Just went it all in. Suddenly changed diet. Tried to drink. Tried to have several non-drinking nights a week. Lots of exercise, cold showers, the whole sort of remit of the blueprint kicks in, and it was great. And I really, really thoroughly enjoyed the blueprint, and actually the cohort that we were on with was just absolutely superb. And it was that sort of camaraderie and spirit of the group that was great. I think for me, the thing for me was addressing the fact that my instant go-to previously would have just been, well, I need to probably throttle back a bit of drinking in the week, sort of diet out a bit, and need to do a bit more sport. It would have been very physically related, I think. Whereas what has really come through for me is how I'm showing up. I think the number one thing that I'll take away from the blueprint, and still working with you, Luke, is how you show up in front of people, those decision making, how I'm showing up to the family. And that comes with a sort of combination of physical improvements. That is really important, and definitely my diet, my blood pressure, my health is a lot better. Just on that, my weight continues to reduce, but it's sort of slow and steady wins the race, unlike some of the other gents where they've had some really, really huge drops. But actually I'm quite pleased with that, because it sort of shows it's sustainable for the future. We've embedded some changes at home that sort of show that I can continue this going forward. So that's really good. It's sort of slow and steady weight reduction, and toning up and feeling much more. So that's good on the physical side. But actually, it's the well-being and the mental side that is the most important. For me, has been the most important changes. Even just ironically, the cold showers, they're very refreshing in the morning, as I'm sure everyone will agree. But they do really get you set for the day. And it's the way that things like the introduction of some of the resources that we've introduced. It's that freedom of mind and that ability to. I've never been a very big journaler or meditator. I've never meditated very much, but actually, I've done a little bit of meditation, although I haven't sort of got on quite as well as that as some of the other gentlemen in the group. But certainly the journaling, the sort of to-do listing, and the being grateful for things has come to the fore for me. That's been a big thing, and that does allow me to deep sort of, yes, sort of wind down in the evening and sort of calm my mind down.
Decompress.
Decompress, that's it. Yeah. Where usually I go to bed and don't sleep very well, and that you just can't get things out of your mind. The actual ability to forward think things through and have a bit more freedom of mind has given me the ability to sleep a lot better and be a bit freer of mind. And that's been the big change for me.
Well, we've discussed this. I can't and give you advice on how to run a law firm. I've got absolutely no idea, right? I've got no skills in that. But in terms of a coaching process, what I believe and how I like to work is that we can improve how you show up holistically across the board. And as a byproduct of that, you'll make better decisions. You'll be less reactive. You'll be more present both at home and in meetings. And so it's not about, for me, the way I work, giving you career advice, because who am I to tell you what to do? But equally, it's about helping empower you to make better decisions, make commitments to
Yeah.
yourself. Look at what you're doing objectively. If something's not gone right, we'll stop, take a breath,
Yeah.
correct. And I think a lot of the time, it's what's driven your success to get you to where you've got to in your career, kind of bringing that back to life, but in a personal setting. And so I think for me, that's how, because ultimately, when I've worked with you, Pete, and other gents that I work with, we've changed nothing external. And you've still got the same busy job. You've still got your family with the dynamics going on. Nothing there has
Yeah.
changed. But all of a sudden, life's better. You feel more content. You've got more peace of mind. You're healthier. Well, what have we changed? You. And that's the magic, right? And so, like, it's your ability to, I guess, address the problems, face what's going on within your life. And so when you do that from a stronger, positive place, everything seems better as a byproduct. But equally, I think everybody else gets a better you as a byproduct as well.
And I really genuinely believe that. I mean, the feedback. So I've had some very senior colleagues at work who are good friends of mine, and they have noticed a change and have sort of intimated that it's been great to see the sort of development and the sort of confidence gain, but also just being a bit more reasoned and objective around decision making and key decisions that are being made at work. That's been great to get some feedback from there. But actually, trumping all of it is my family, who just have really noticed the change. We've really grown together as a foursome. As I say, we've had some big challenges, and I'm sure that does either throw you together or sometimes can go the other way. But it's thrown us together fantastically well. But actually, we've had some great holidays. We went to New York to celebrate the end of Rachel's treatment in December, and just had the most fantastic week as a family. Since that, we've really powered on from that this year as these sort of principles are being embedded, and we have some quality time together, some great conversations. We're not all on our phones and tech and gadgets. We are wanting to spend more time with each other, and I'm just much more present with them when I'm here. It's been a real game changer.
That word there, present, that's a really, really important one. And I hear it a lot with gents who I speak to initially. And often is, I don't feel present. I want to be present. My wife says I need to be more present. And I think presence is what, people talk about work-life balance. Actual elapsed clock time, balance, bollocks. You're always going to do more work,
That's right.
especially at the stage we're at career-wise and whatever. Most of us guys I work with typically early 40s all the way through to mid 50s, right? And so the time spent, actual time, there's going to be more work there. For me, what the balance is presence relative to where you're at. So present, focused, engaged at work.
Yeah.
But then when you're at home, present, focused, engaged, giving your family what they want. And that's what balance is. It's showing up wherever you are with intentionality, calm, and presence. And so I think that's where you will feel balanced. There'll be more time spent in one of those domains for the next few years, at least for most of us. But it means when you are there, you're there connected and giving
That's it.
everyone what they need, be that your colleagues or be that the people at home. And for me, where the balance skews is where that's all blurred and it's a bit all over the place, and work cannibalizes other things, and then it cannibalizes your ability to take care of yourself. So if you're in a great state, you're then able to be present in those different scenarios. And I think that's kind of where the magic is, really, because you feel like you're really engaged in whatever it is you're doing. You want to be present and full on at work and loving it, but likewise you want to be that at home. But if the work bit's cannibalizing the home bit, that's where the rub starts to
I think that's totally right. And then, the work is stressful and it's long hours. I'm away in hotels and in various cities and towns around the country frequently, probably at least 2 or 3 nights a week. So the time at home is incredibly precious. And if you come home shattered and knackered and not present, then it just has the sort of, as I say, downward spiral in the group connection and the family connection as a whole. I think that's the ability for me to have been able to separate a little of work and family actually and get that sort of balance more set. But also just to, we had I mean, it's silly little things, I suppose, but there's been, for instance, I'm a big Liverpool fan, and we had some tickets to the Liverpool Arsenal game this year in hospitality, and ordinarily probably would have been a little bit selfish and would have obviously gone to that game. Um, my daughter, I grew up in the Southwest, and 10 tours was a big thing in the Southwest. And my daughter had got into the 10 tours team, and that was the day that they were going to be finishing at 10 tours. And it's almost been a sort of dream to live vicariously through my daughter in terms of her coming over the line. And so obviously made the decision to go and watch her come over the line. But I probably would have made that decision in the past, but it might have been a bigger conversation in my mind. At this point, it's a no-brainer.
No-brainer.
I am there regardless of the circumstances. And we've got multiple sort of instances like that where it's been a brilliant exercise for us all. And if I'm honest, Luke, I don't think my family will necessarily mind me saying it, but it's also brought them on, because I'm not saying they're sort of fearful of me, but they don't know which version of me might necessarily always show up. Whereas I'm more consistent now, and that gives them more comfort and certainty to be able to behave in the way that we all grow together. So.
Well, it's to some degree, not always, but that your mood can dictate the mood of the house. And
Yeah, definitely.
if you come in stressed out your head from work, pissed off because the clients are X, Y, and Z, or something's not gone your way, well, that will play out with everyone else. If you've got the mechanisms and tools to be able to decompress, like we discussed, stop and come home and be the version that you want, well, then people know and expect, and your family get that, right? And then what you talked about there about those decisions, I mean, that was very much the right decision. But you talked about the confidence and imposter syndrome and self-esteem. What's that got to do with that decision? Well, kind of everything, because the sort of man and dad and husband that makes that decision is totally aligned with who he wants to be. So then when he walks through the door with a big town hall the next day, he's shown up as he wants.
Yeah.
And I think those things, you say it's a little thing, it's not, it's massive. I think those little micro decisions are so big, because that's the rich tapestry of your life. And if you're aligned with doing the things that you want, well, then when you show up, you're the person you want to be, and there is no imposter, because you're not imposter to anyone. You're being yourself, and you're aligned with the decisions you want to make. Had you not done that, you might have enjoyed the football, but you kind of know that wasn't what I should have done.
That wasn't what I should be doing.
And you didn't, by the way. But do you see what I mean? And then that would equate a bit of his self-esteem. I didn't do what I said there, and then that plays out elsewhere. Whereas actually, if that's all aligned, likewise at work, if you make a decision and you're honest and you communicate, and it's all versus I'm boss, you do this.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that's how you operate.
Well, I think just on
the same parallels, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think, without giving any of my colleagues the ammunition to come after me now, but one of the things, I'm a bit of a pleaser, and I've always tried to be a sort of people pleaser. And I suppose at times that can lapse into situations where you try and keep everybody happy and be all things to all people. And when you're in a bit of a fog, you can continue that because you're maybe struggling with the ability to raise yourself out of that situation and just perpetuate what you're used to doing in order just to survive. What I am able to, and as I say, some colleagues have reported this back as sort of feedback for reviews and just anecdotally, but they are seeing me show up in a much more consistent manner now. And I'm not just trying to people please, because ultimately that isn't the best thing for everybody else, because if you're not clear and precise with people and able to be consistent with them, then I think you end up giving them mixed signals, and they end up thinking about things in a different way that doesn't benefit them. So all of a sudden we're in a situation now where we are having a much more reasoned conversation, but actually it's the benefit for them and for us.
Also, I would argue more transparent. And I think that's the key, because in a weird way, the people pleasing, although it's sort of well intentioned, actually you're doing the reverse, because you're giving that person a disservice, because it's not what you believe. It's not what you say. Also, you're making an assumption of what they think they want to hear.
Yeah.
So you're not giving them the opportunity. And so actually, in a way, you're cutting off an ability to actually have a real and open dialogue. Whereas actually, if you're transparent and fair with what you say and what you mean, again, there's no imposter there, because you believe what you say.
Yeah.
And actually, they get a fair version of you because you're being transparent. And so then you can be totally honest about what the situation is.
Absolutely correct.
That phrase that I bang on about a lot, Pete, which I think you like, is that unspoken expectations and premeditated resentments. Yeah. I think that's what can happen. Well, I did that thing for him, and why didn't you know it? Why didn't you like it? Well, because you didn't give an opportunity. You just made an assumption about what he thinks, and that'll make you feel better. I'm talking about the royal you, not just you, Pete, by the way.
Yeah.
But then you end up resenting someone, and they've basically had nothing to do with any of this. It's just a dialogue in your head, and you made a judgment. Whereas actually, if you just open and talk about it, well, then you get to a better place. And even if that person doesn't do the thing that you would like, well, that's a conversation you need to have because that's sitting there anyway. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a win-win. You either uncover something uncomfortable and address it, or you're both on the same page and you move on. And I think that's being able to do that comes from, when we loop right back, being in a good state about yourself physically, mentally, emotionally. Like you said, when the fog's there, doing that is quite tricky, right?
I think just the sort of final part of that sort of point. I agree, by the way, but the final piece of that point is that we've had some challenges over the last few years. I've got some friends and family that have been struggling. Certainly, as I say, to a generation, and also, I know mental health is absolutely of paramount importance at the moment, given that as we emerge from COVID and all of the challenges that we all face in everyday society. And actually, it's the need and the ability to be a bit freer of mind, to talk openly, to be honest with each other, to be transparent. We're all in this together. The showing from the group, the cohort that were on the blueprint, and the collective subsequently, the sort of camaraderie and the sharing of stories and tales that have enabled us to all be quite open and transparent with each other, probably more than you would be in any other environment, has been phenomenal, really. And the ability to be able to share those stories, I think, gives people a lot of solace, and actually we're all in this together. Everyone's got challenges going on at home, and it's about how you sort of lean into it. And this very much enabled me to lean into addressing some of those challenges, and I feel all the better for it.
I think I know you make a very important point there, Pete, because men and women, especially guys, we're not great about talking about what's going on. Yeah, it's all fine.
Yeah,
Football or whatever, you know.
exactly.
But having an environment where you peel back the onion and see others share, he does what, and he's struggling with that,
It's
and he
not
does
just
what.
me.
Oh my god, yeah, it's like fuck for that, like, because you realise everyone's got shit going on, and not in a let's wallow in it, but it's a leveler in a real powerful way. But
It
then you
is.
see someone with some shit taking ownership, making a decision, you go, oh well, if he can do it, so can I, and that becomes very powerful. Then also on top of that, I mean it, Pete, someone like yourself who is senior, having a conversation like this, I think it's really powerful and important because it gives license to people who would look up to you and go, well, Pete struggled with some stuff and he got help and he worked through it. He didn't just, but it's helpful because everyone does, and that's okay. And not like a pity party, or we're all victims. Oh my god, it's none of that. But it's just that shared experience and being transparent and open is really powerful because then we can all move forward and work on it.
Yeah,
I would say the only prerequisite for help with me and the way I coach is A, putting your hand up when something doesn't work, and just being honest with yourself that you need a bit of help. And if you can do those two things, you can make a change, right? But if you internalize and stick your head in the sand, you can't help.
yeah, and I mean it's a continuous evolving thing as well, isn't it? Right? I mean, you've got to keep on working on it. What I think the question you raised earlier on, which I probably didn't necessarily quite nail, is you need to continuously evolve and iterate. Constantly think about things and how you can improve yourself and be the best version of yourself. And I think that changes at different stages in your life. But yeah, it's this has been a brilliant shake for me, just to reset a couple of things that were probably causing a bit of sort of fogism that I've managed to lift, and it's given me the ability to be better. I hope a better boss at work, and a better better father at home.
Well, I mean, not that you were ever my boss or my dad, but I can tell from the man that I spoke to 6 months ago versus the Pete I'm talking to now, from my perspective, a paradigm shift on yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally. And I know there's been feedback from countless people to say the same. Like you said, are you perfect? No, neither am I. We always get things wrong, and like you just said there, it's a continual journey. But I think if you're able to look at yourself almost as an ongoing project and go, I'm not perfect, I'm never going to get everything right, but I can continue to iterate and build on myself, just like you would a business or anything else. That's exciting, and not that it's some horrible, slog. Quite the opposite.
No,
Like treating yourself like a project to learn, adapt,
yeah,
grow, better. It's brilliant because actually
it
you want
is.
more. It's okay.
It's
There's
it's
levels.
invigorating. It's exciting. It's the bit that I'm really enjoying, actually, because you do start to think, I can do these things. I can look to push the boundaries a bit. I've never been a particularly a weights guy, but I'm starting to do quite a lot of weights at home now. That it's there's different things that just get you motivated.
Well, Pete, I know you're very busy, so I won't cannibalize any more of your time. Thank you so much for this conversation. Like I said, I think anyone watching will get a lot out of it because ostensibly, like you said, very successful, smashing it, life great, but there's other things going on, and you've been open and transparent about that. But like I always say, that you, to some degree, you were the problem in that, but you're also the solution, and you're very much the solution right now. And whether it's to work with me as a coach or not, anyone listening, if you are feeling like Pete was and what he said resonates, it's not big, sweeping, grand stuff. Firstly, you just have to recognize, okay, things aren't working, because sometimes like, yeah, it's all great on paper. Oh, it's okay, it's not that bad. I'm not depressed, but, and there's all these buts. It's like, well, if that's your bar, not depressed, but, or, whatever, well, then I'd indicate there probably is something needs to be there. Well, that's the
Yeah.
first step. It's not working. Well, then what do I need to do to address it? What's the low hanging fruit? And it's not big, shiny things. And I think just recognizing that, of course, I'm someone who can help. And if anyone's listening to this and they're interested, drop me a note or a DM in the comments. But equally, it's well within your gift to take ownership and change. And it doesn't have to be big, shiny stuff. And Pete's very much a shining example of that.
I mean, I really do agree with that. And it is small incremental, it's the 1%. Actually, it's the incremental changes. It's the small changes that you make that make all the difference. But it's been a brilliant program, Luke. I do wholeheartedly recommend it to anyone that is listening, because it's been a brilliant exercise for me. A real chance, if you're in that sort of fog, real chance to reset, just to give some time to think about yourself. You give yourself a bit of freedom of mind, and change things up a bit. And I am definitely coming through and believing and genuinely seeing the benefits. So yeah, I wholeheartedly recommend it. It's been great, and I look forward to us continuing to work together.
Very much so. Yeah. Well, yeah. As Del Boy said, the world's your lobster, Pete. So there's more we're going to do for sure. On that note, again, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it, Pete. If anyone is watching or listening and you're interested in having a chat, drop me a comment or a note in the DMs. Otherwise, have a fantastic week, and I will see you next week. Cheers.
Cheers.